You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
The Seattle Times, the major newspaper here in the city of Seattle, is suing the city of Seattle over these lost and missing texts on Jenny Durkan's phone, Mayor Jenny Durkan's phone during CHOP. That's what's going on. So not only do we have a lawsuit from the parents of one of the young gentlemen that was killed during CHOP, we've got another lawsuit going against the city of Seattle from the business owners that were subjected to a period of lawlessness during CHOP. Now the Seattle Times, they're suing the city saying, hey, we had all these requests for information and you didn't exactly tell us then that, all of those messages were deleted. All the messages were deleted from our mayor's cell phone? Miraculously, just her alongside Fire Chief of Seattle, 5 of the top police officers in the police department, and also, at that time, Seattle Police Chief Carmen. All of those people just, they had some technical issues with their phones. And all of this data, all this information has gone missing from the time period around CHOP. That's what we're talking about today. We've got some shenanigans going on here in Seattle. I don't care what city you live in. This is some stuff that we need to get to the bottom of. All right, that's what we're going to read about. If you're new here, my name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news. Let's just do this. Okay. So the Seattle Times filed a lawsuit yesterday. I'm reading this to you on a Friday. Thursday, allegedly, love that word, because it just means, we don't really know, but we're going to throw it out there. Allegedly, that the city of Seattle mishandled requests from reporters for officials' text messages during a tumultuous period last summer. That was CHOP/Chaz. I keep seeing him referred to as Chaz, which was the old version, right? It's not an autonomous zone. The protesters, they weren't down with autonomous zone. They didn't want that label. They wanted CHOP, Occupy Protest, right? You got to get this terminology right. During a tumultuous period last summer when police abandoned the East Precinct and used tear gas on protesters. It's interesting how they always say, and use tear gas on protesters. Well, that is kind of what you do. When you have a riot on your hands, that's what you do. You use tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's called crowd control. And that's just kind of what you do. If you have a group of people that get out of control and basically break the law, tear gas, crack it out, people. Let's go. So why does it matter that we don't have these texts? Well, we need to kind of know who said to abandon the East Precinct during CHOP. We know what happened. We know the timeline of what happened. We know physically how it happened. All right, they pulled out their stuff there. We just don't know who said, hey, you need to back down and let these peaceful protesters occupy the East Precinct. That's a big, big deal because then whoever did that, there's some real liability on the line. And there's going to be some huge payouts from insurance, right? I mean, that's just what's going on because the city of Seattle has been sued multiple times, including this one here. And I think so much of this just has to do with the discovery process and getting to the bottom of this and basically, taking deposition of the individuals involved. And so who changed the setting on your phone that made it to delete everything just after 30 days, even though that's in violation of record keeping, for city officials? Who did that? That's what they're after. That's what they're looking for. That's my take anyway, from what I know. And I had one of my guys ask me, my videographer, Nikki here asked me, can't they just go to the phone company and get those texts from the phone company? And the answer is, I don't know. I remember during my divorce, it was it was tossed around that, we're gonna subpoena your cell phone and get all the texts on your phone because you're clearly you're an awful human being, and that's what we're gonna do. They were just putting me through the grinder, and that's what you do when you're litigating things. You put people through the grinder and see if they just pop, and see what the response is. You go fishing, and that's what this is. This is a fishing expedition to kind of see, hey, what's the dealio here? What do we have going on? All right, let's keep reading here. The complaint filed in King County Superior Court, follows a whistleblower investigation that found Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan's office violated state public records laws in its handling of requests after discovering the mayor's texts were missing for a 10-month period. 10 months. So chop, and then months on either side of that. Let's just delete them all because we talked about it before and we talked about it after chop. Let's just delete all those. Just we'll change that little setting. Nobody will notice. We know that they will notice, but we're just gonna take whatever they throw our way, and it's probably a better bet that we go there. Because who is really gonna sue us? Is the Seattle Times gonna sue us? Probably not. Oh, they are? Okay. That was kind of my reaction when I saw this. Like, oh, all right, well, let's see what comes from this. 4 Seattle Times reporters were among the requesters affected. Their requests were largely focused on officials' communications surrounding a series of events last summer, including fatal shootings in the Capitol Hill organized protest area that formed following the precinct's abandonment and the resignation of former Police Chief Carmen Best. So former Chief Police Carmen Best, she resigned well after this, right? She just did. None of the reporters were informed that the mayor's texts had not been retained. Boy, mayor's office, not coming clean, right? Not coming clean. This doesn't look good. There's some liability here, isn't there? Seattle Times, represented by attorney Kathy George, claims the city violated the Public Records Act by withholding or destroying the mayor's records after they were requested. The Times also argues the city did not respond to requests in a timely fashion and with the fullest assistance as required by state law. You didn't tell us, you didn't help us out the way you should have. Tisk, tisk. Therefore, we shall sue you. That's what we're doing. The city has said that one of Durkan's city-issued cell phones was set to delete text after 30 days, which goes against state law and the city's retention policies. But we did it anyway. Why did we do it? Well, there's probably some information in there that we'd rather not have come out. We're going to have it come out in the way that, litigation style. So it's still not clear who is responsible for changing the retention setting to 30 days. So we don't know who did that. We don't know who ordered the abandonment of the East Precinct. There's a lot that we don't know. But I think we're going to get to the bottom of it with these lawsuits. So we don't know who changed the setting to 30 days, the shortest standard option on an iPhone. Texts from 7 police department officials, including the former chief and the fire chief, are also missing. It's just shocking that, what are the odds, and I've said this before, what are the odds that all of these people just miraculously have all of these text data just disappear? Where'd it go? What happened to it? Who deleted it? The Seattle City Attorney's Office said it did not immediately have a response to the lawsuit, but would respond over the course of the litigation. Yeah, of course they will. They have to. They're being sued. We intend to review this new complaint and will respond accordingly, said Dan Nolte, spokesperson for City Attorney Pete Holmes. We will get to you when we get to you when we are forced to get to you. The Times is seeking the records requested by reporters, as well as attorneys' fees and penalties that are allowed under state law to deter future violations. Seattle Times executive editor Michelle Matassa Flores said the paper is disappointed to have to resort to legal action, but that seems the only way to get their attention. In a democracy, it's the public's right to know who is making decisions at City Hall and why, whether it's about spending tax dollars or shifting police tactics or anything else, or abandoning an entire police precinct station. It should not take months or years for elected officials and public servants to explain their actions, and important records should not be destroyed, especially when there's multiple lawsuits going on. And that is literally what we've got going on right now. And so the odds of these folks having all of these text messages go ahead and put that setting on delete. We'll work this out later. We're supposed to believe this? What are we supposed to believe here? Don't really know. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch and find out. This is just one of those Story that's going to keep on going, right? The missing text messages may also play a role in other lawsuits the city faces over its response to Black Lives Matter protests last summer, including from protesters who accused police of unnecessary force. And we got that. We've got the mother of a 19-year-old killed in the protest zone, Anderson, and a group of residents and businesses who allege they were harmed when police left the East Precinct. So we've just got all of this stuff going back and forth. The mayor's office discovered in August, well, allegedly in August, that texts on Durkan's city-issued phone between August 2019 to June 25th, 2020 were not retained. But now, June 25th was right before CHOP got cleared out. CHOP got cleared out on July the 1st, I believe. So the deals had already been cut. The precinct had already been cleared out. We were on our way back to having the homeless encampment and all of CHOP cleared out by June 25th. So that must be the cutoff period. And it's like, oh, okay, we need to get rid of this one. This is where all these texts took place. Let's go ahead and let's just, 30 days and over, we'll get rid of that. And then we'll just deal with the aftermath afterwards. When Durkan's staff realized the texts were missing, the mayor's legal counsel, Michelle Chen, decided to exclude the missing texts from some requests, according to an investigation by the Seattle Ethics and Election Commission. Not good. So we've got legal counsel saying, we don't need to put those in there. We'll just see if those come up later. We'll take that risk and just see how this goes. Well, it's not going all that well. So this investigation by the Seattle Ethics and Election Commission, sparked by whistleblower complaints from 2 city public records officers. Inside job. Oh, wow. At the time, there were 48 active requests that were interpreted as including the mayor's text messages. 48 active requests. Chen reinterpreted most of them narrowly to exclude the texts and directed staff not to inform requesters, including Times reporters, that the texts were missing. So not only do we have the texts that were missing, we've got a cover-up. After reporting on the ethics investigation in May, the Seattle Times reviewed its own request to the city and focused its lawsuit on 5 requests. One, which was submitted before the pandemic, asked for instructions to city departments, including the mayor's office, on communicating with reporters. The office determined that since the request didn't specifically identify Durkan herself, her messages could be excluded. Other requests sought communications between the mayor and her staff and Seattle police regarding the use of chemical crowd control agents from early June to July 15th during the height of the protests, and text exchange between frontline Seattle police commanders and Durkan's office in a critical time period in the CHOP. And I am guessing that would, and I was down there a bunch of times down at CHOP, just running around with my GoPro, seeing what's going on and doing some live streams, because that was a big deal. And the critical time period would have been right around mid-June. Wild times. And everybody kind of knew, right, the mayor's office would have a one of their delegates go down there and talk. The mayor never really showed up. I never saw the mayor. I just saw the mayor's spokesperson, and they would go down there and they would hash it out with whomever was kind of talking on behalf of CHOP. It was just it was messed up. I mean, there was no official, person for the activists. Nobody was in charge. Nobody was in control. If they were really behind the scenes, and it just looked like this loose-knit group of people that there was no real central authority, obviously, and things just kind of happened on the willy-nilly. And so it wasn't much of a stretch when the police finally rolled through on July 1st and just cleared things out. That wasn't very difficult for them to do. They just kind of rolled in SWAT team style and, all right, we're clearing this bad boy out. And, the activists, there was at that point in time, there was no there was no defending their turf, which was the East Precinct at that time. It was been the east side of the East Precinct is where they had all their barricades and their tents, and they were kind of hunkered down on Custer's last stand, which it didn't end up well for either one of them, right? So some of the Seattle Times requests for the mayor's text were submitted before her phone settings were changed to retain messages, meaning they were deleted while the requests were pending. That's not good either. That's a violation there. There's going to be some issues there. For some of these requests, the mayor's office noted that it would recreate the mayor's texts by pulling messages from the phones of other people she communicated with. In response to one request, the office sent a Seattle Times reporter Excel spreadsheets that purported to show a city council member's text with Durkan. All right. I don't want to see a spreadsheet that's been exported from somewhere. I don't want to see the spreadsheet, right? No. The city also frequently pushed back the dates it said records would be provided, citing an extreme backlog of requests or delayed responses from city council members. In one case, the police department said it could not release records about a homicide because it was an open investigation, even though a suspect had been charged. So we've got a lot of information not getting out to the public and a bunch of excuses being given as to, my phone messages got deleted. Seattle Times has previously sued the city over a response to records requests. Okay, so this is not their first rodeo. They're just going in hard. Let's see what they come up with. Man, what a debacle. And I've had so many of you guys on this storyline hit me up with comments. Like I literally said, if somebody could run the statistics on what are the odds that the text messages were deleted from the mayor's cell phone, the chief of police's cell phone, the chief of the fire department's cell phone, and like another, let's give them another 5. That's like 8 major officials, and the other 5 are higher ups in the Seattle Police Department. What are the odds that of those 8 people, what are the odds that that all happens all at once? I mean, it's literally got to be in the billions to 1 that something like that would happen, right? I mean, I don't even know statistically what the odds are. So we're reasonable people, right? That's why you're tuning into this podcast. We're reasonable people. We're like, yeah, that's some kind of cover up. There's something funny. There's something fishy going on there. I'm not going to say directly who did it because I don't know. But what we do know is, hey, something's going on there. And we've got lawsuits going on. And so knowing who basically told the police department to clear out the East Precinct and then not go back once they'd cleared out, whoever said that, whoever directed that, there is some liability there. And then there's liability on the city's part for basically allowing they keep calling it 6 block section of town. I don't know if it was 6 blocks because one of those blocks is a city park and that was pretty darn big. Multiple block area, known as Chaz and Chop. That happened. And so when that happened and people got injured and businesses got injured and break-ins took place and, teenage black kids got murdered, there's some liability when you don't have a police force involved. There's some liability when you can't get medical, when you can't get an ambulance in there because the ambulance, and I've watched the footage, the ambulance is going, hey, we got to wait for the police to clear this thing out because this is a hot zone. We're not going in there till the police do their job. That is protocol in a situation like that. If you watch the video of how this went down, people are screaming at the ambulance. You're letting them bleed out. Why are you letting this happen? And I get that because there's a kid who's literally bleeding out. Horrible. But the ambulance drivers, they've got a protocol they have to follow, and the police couldn't figure out where this person was and this person, and some of the people screaming at the ambulance, they're screaming, he's not here. He's already been taken to the hospital. And somebody, in the makeshift first aid deal that the protesters had, They dropped him off at the hospital. And I can't remember if he was dead on arrival or if he died at the hospital. Either way, that young man lost his life. Could that have been prevented? I don't really know. We'll probably never know. Could that have been prevented if he would have had, medical assistance in a timely manner? But because we didn't have any police, police weren't allowed in this area. Who's got the liability there? Does the city have the liability? I mean, probably, right? And then kind of who's held accountable throughout this process? Mayor Durkan? Did Mayor Durkan order this? She did say it was the summer of love. So that's on record. I don't know. We don't know. And that's what we're kind of getting to the bottom of here. Because this is kind of a unique period. This is a unique piece of American history. And knowing how this all went down, well, it's maybe like knowing the origins of the coronavirus. We'd like to probably try and prevent this from happening again. So knowing how this went down in CHOP/Chaz, whatever you want to call it, the peaceful protest, the not so peaceful protest, that happened in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood during the summer of 2020. Knowing how it went down, I think helps us prevent something like this from happening down the road. I did see that there was more activity in the George Floyd Occupy protest area, the autonomous zone, as people are calling that. It got cleared out, and then, protesters are right back in there. Stuff like that happening. But in the CHOP, we haven't had, it hasn't gone back to the lawless protest zone by any means. Police cleared it out once on July 1st, and then they cleared it out again from the homeless encampments that basically, came back in there. They did that in December of 2020, I believe. And so it's just been this area where there's a lot going on. And with these lawsuits, we'll hopefully get to the bottom of this. We will hopefully find out exactly who issued the directive of, hey, we're going to clear out the East Precinct because you police officers and you protesters, you can't seem to get along. And we're going to have the summer of love here. So let's just clear out the East Precinct, because what could possibly go wrong here? What could happen here that, this is just the summer of love. It's a city block party. And, this is what we're doing, until it wasn't, right? And that did happen very quickly overnight. And a lot of people, especially a lot of people that watch my channel, they, are pretty direct about, hey, you kind of get what you ask for. If you want a lawless zone, a couple of people murdered, yeah, that's kind of how this goes down. So crazy times, but not unexpected times here in Seattle. Because just look at the stuff that's going on. I mean, it's just nutty. The fact that we even had this last summer, it's like, what? How does that happen? Oh, well, here it happens like this. And now we're dealing with the legal aftermath. And that's the part that I enjoy kind of covering. It's not the actual thing that happened. It's like, all right, that happened. So where's the liability? Who's going to pay? Because it comes down to business decisions at this point, right? All right. So how far are we going to take this lawsuit? What are our odds of winning this lawsuit? Or is winning the lawsuit even the objective? Do we want to settle? What's that look like? Well, we need to prove liability here, right? Need to prove who ordered this. How did this all come down? And there could be a bunch of other lawsuits out there in the wings waiting too. We don't really know. We do know the ones that we have going on right now. And I don't know anybody on the side of the mother of the 19-year-old, Horace Anderson. I don't know anybody there, but I've certainly read all the news stories on that. But I do know a number of people in the group of residents and businesses who allege they were harmed when the police left this East Precinct. And they're pretty much straight up like, yeah, the city's got liability. We're in an area, we're running businesses. We are living in an area that was basically left without, city services. And that's kind of why you live in a city, right? You should have access to, police protection and the medical services if and when you need them. And you just didn't have any of that What you did have is you had the Seattle Department of Transportation dropping off additional barricades so that the, protesters at CHOP, the peaceful protesters, so that they could barricade themselves in. That's literally what you had the Department of Transportation doing. They were there dropping stuff off, and then they're getting called in. All right, we're going to get rid of all the barricades. That'll be the first step in clearing things out. We had one day of that, and the protesters got all worked up. And I was told by somebody in the police department, hey, this is going down. So I was there pretty early. I covered that. And I did some live streaming there. And it was super interesting from the standpoint of, I think it was one of those, this is before the whole clear out. So sometime late June, last week in June, the Department of Transportation got sent in to see what they're kind of flying the flag up the flagpole to see what the reaction is to bringing in the Department of Transportation to remove those barricades so that the police can just go in there and just clean house. Yeah, the peaceful protesters, they kind of showed, how many people they had there. Not a lot, but enough to make things messy. And then they just basically hunkered down, like I said, on that east side of the police precinct, then just waited and waited and waited. And then like 6 a.m., maybe 5 a.m., I can't remember, on July 1st, it was just like the SWAT team of Seattle police in the hundreds arrived, and they just cleaned house. They just, just cleared things out. And that was crazy. It was just wild to watch. And I've seen this on the sweep end of things, but this was different because you had a bunch of protesters who were not going to go down quietly. And we knew they were armed. But also, a lot of the groups that were there protesting, they had left. A lot of the folks that were there, they had left. They were not there. They were gone. They'd cut their deals and they were out of there. And that's kind of some of what I reported on. It was all this murky details of who was doing what behind the scenes and how did it go. And it seemed like it was basically a bunch of Antifa left at the end. That's kind of how it felt to me looking around. Not a lot of Black Lives Matter protesters left there at the end. Not so much that. Basically just straight up Antifa. So this is an interesting story. Does it have anything to do with real estate? It does, because these neighborhoods impacted by the whole CHOP thing, because they're in a really dense urban neighborhood that's used to a lot of topsy-turvy stuff, they weren't rocked nearly as hard as I thought they would be. Condos in that area have still sold very quickly. Housing absorbed very quickly. It's kind of like, well, yeah, it's Capitol Hill. We got, the rainbow on the sidewalks. It's, anything goes. And it's always been kind of one of those neighborhoods. And so it really wasn't impacted the way that the rest of the world was like, I'll pick up some of that, or, somebody will pick up that real estate super dirt cheap after this is all over because nobody's going to want to live there. Well, not true. They do. And on an ongoing basis, they always have and they always will, because there's always a certain, population that really wants to live there. Whether you've got, what's that, the big police vehicle that's like an armored vehicle, the Bearcat or something. I mean, it's just this enormous, like tank-like vehicle that drives down the road, and it's got the guy up at the top with like on the turret machine gun, and is calling out orders over the megaphone. You are hereby ordered to disperse, and everybody kind of disperses, or they don't. They flash bombs going off, and there's video of that. Here's how I think this will go. I think we'll get some bits and pieces of these conversations back and forth. We'll get a bunch of Excel spreadsheets like I talked about. We'll never really know the full story, but we'll get enough where these lawsuits get settled, and they get settled out of court for undisclosed sums of money. And then there's basically a no discussion agreement, non-disclosure agreement after that, all the normal stuff you have on a lawsuit. I think that's what happens, and everybody kind of walks away tight-lipped, and the public never really knows what the true deal was. Do we ever get to find out who ordered the evacuation of the East Precinct? I sure hope so. But at this rate, I don't know that we actually will. I kind of think that we don't. I think that we kind of get told a story and we're like, it's kind of like them telling us, hey, we just had like 8 people just, with city phones. It just happened. Deleted. Who knew? Yeah, the shortest setting an iPhone can have for deleting messages. I don't know. We're not really sure. Technology. Blame it on technology. That's what old people do, right? I can't figure this out. I'm old. No, that's not going to fly here. We're going to figure out something. I just don't think it's going to be the full truth because that's kind of how this goes, right? But I will cover it for you right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast because that's what we're doing. Because this does have to do with real estate. It has to do with neighborhoods, and it has to do with what goes on in neighborhoods down the road when you outline a protest zone and tell the police, you guys need to exit stage left for a little bit. We need to let these peaceful protesters just really do their thing. We'll see how that goes. Oh, didn't go well. We need you guys back in there. Prepare to do a massive sweep. As this story continues, I'll carry it for you right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for being part of, we're getting close to 50,000 subscribers. That's pretty cool. I keep thinking about that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty wild. Thank you for subscribing. If you're a subscriber, thank you, because I literally can't do this without you because it's not that fun for me to sit here and talk to myself. I need you guys to be here too. All right, that's it for me. We'll catch up soon. Till then, stay safe. I'll see you soon. Bye until then. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.